attaching the moss balls. I'm gonna make these moss balls from scratch so you can see how I do them. If I find it there, then I will immediately repot it because the plant is already like in the middle of the stress. Why do I like to start this short? Hey, welcome back. David here. Today we're gonna do 3 major settings, well, possibly 3 divisions. The first one is going to be Philodendron Billietiae. So let's start with that and stay tuned for the others. What I see here is coco coir. Maybe it's a mix of coco coir and peat moss, but my guess will be coco coir.
2 hours later.
Well, that took an hour and 20 minutes. That's why I did it off camera, because I knew what was going to happen. That is the worst mix that growers can use. It's a very fibrous coco peat. That's about the amount of roots that were damaged in the process, but it's just impossible not to. And you saw that there were two plants there. Now take a guess. Do you think they were both the same size? Do you think they're both like the root system is the same? What are your guesses? Because they were quite tangled. So what I noticed is like on the edges of the root system, the roots were a lot more dry and crispy, not fully dry, that in the center. And you're gonna see that now when I show you both the specimens. And here we are. So this one is slightly bigger. It has, I don't know if this one had a leaf. It doesn't look like it's been chopped, but that should have been larger. And if you can see, this is the root system here. These are aerial roots. This one is completely dry. So those I will remove, because I will also give the plant a chance to grow new aerial roots. But if you see it, these are the ones that got to the side of the pot, and you can see they're stressed in there, and that area is quite dry. But it's a healthy root system. Like, I have removed most of it. I'm just gonna give it a good rinse, because I just hate that material. It's just that simple. So this one has 4 leaves and this much root. This one has the same or more amount of roots. This was one that was tangled with this other big one, and that was also causing the separation to take longer, because I was as surgical as I could using a skewer, so I didn't cause any extra damage. So now I'm just cleaning. This root is completely dry, so the plant has no use for it. This one's starting to dry out, like about right there. I'm not gonna fully cut it because this root is still alive and it might attach. There's something growing here. I don't know if it's a new leaf. I don't think so, because this is the newest leaf. But also, like, that's what I wanted to point out with that. Look where this leaf is coming from. This is like probably the oldest leaf, and it's still there. Now the newest one is night and day in comparison when it comes to the size between the one before and that. So I'm assuming that after this leaf came out, same as this one, after this leaf came out, so these two are the biggest one, that's when the plant was shipped, when it had getting some stress. So the plant is still adapting to the changes that it's been going. Now I have this. Because of that, I like to give the plant a break from when I bring them home, and to adapt at least to the new microenvironment when it comes to the humidity, the watering, the nutrients, and the amount of light that they receive. Once that they adjust from that, I like to give it at least a couple of months, except that I will find, if I find, for example, if I will find this plant like in those containers that they still have the plastic wrap around, and I'm talking about like the big box stores, like Lowe's or Home Depot, If I find it there, then I will immediately repot it because the plant is already like in the middle of the stress. The plant is going from be taken out of the ideal location to be packed and shipped, put into like this in this new scenario, which is the truck. Then has to be put on the shelves. I sometimes see those shelves that are packed with new plants for like days before they even remove them from that area. Sometimes they're like even in the sun. The plant, it depends on what happens to it. It receives a lot of stress because plants are not made to be moving around. Like once you get them aside and they can adjust to the microclimates that you put them in, but you have to let them adjust. If you don't let them adjust, they will be in constant stress and they can easily die. With that said, if I will find them in that situation that they are freshly arrived, then I will yes immediately like repot them because I rather do that. They're already in a transition mode. But when I don't know how long they've been there, I just rather give them a couple of months to adapt to the new microenvironment and then do this procedure, because this procedure is, of all the procedures that the plant is going to go through since it came alive, is probably the most stressful one, because like you're messing up with the root. This is like brain surgery for us. So what I'm going to do is like consider that both of these specimens are uh, quite large. I'm going to put them both on moss balls. I'm going to put them both on 6-inch pot. I'm talking about this size. It's a small. No, it's actually perfect because the root system, it just fits perfect in there. These plants are much bigger than the root system. Now what I'll do at the end, I'm going to show you how I'm going to anchor this pot so it doesn't let the plant to be like flapping around. And you can see that the back of this plant is right here and the back of this one is right here. So I'm not even going to remove this leaf. I'm just going to put it on the side and I'm going to be able to attach the plant here. Even that this plant is shooting this root to the front, it will start shooting once it gets the support back here. It will start shooting towards there. Even this one is going to start to try to go into the soil, actually into the mix. Let me give this a rinse, and then we're gonna go with the process of placing them and attaching the moss balls. I'm gonna make these moss balls from scratch so you can see how I do them, and that's gonna be very quick. So stick around. All right, so here they are, and put them to the side, and let's do these moss balls. It's gonna take a while for them to like grow into like a big moss ball. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna cut this in half. If you have seen another of my episodes, I put the materials. I can't remember on what episode it is, but it's on one of the philodendrons. This is a gutter drain or like downspout that is being cut in half, and now I'm gonna cut it in another half. There are others that are deeper. Later on, I will switch into those moss balls that contain more sphagnum moss to keep the moss moist for longer. But I like to have these because, again, here where I live, in my microenvironment, the plants have to sustain salty air. So a good rinse on the daily basis or every other day is good. That means that the moss is going to get some moisture. And when it's this small amount, that is easy to do. That is easier than if I have to have uh, a deeper moss ball, that the bottom is moist and the top is dry because of the air. Then this can become easily waterlogged in the back, and in the front still stay dry. So it's hard to tell by the eye what is the moisture level. I cannot be testing by squeezing because I have too many moss balls to do that. So let me chop this in half. All right, so with them cut in half, why do I like to start this short? First of all, these are very easy to stack up. Like this is a bigger setting, but for example, right here, if I wanted to extend this, they can just snag together, and with a simple cable strap plus the net that is gonna go in the front, they get secured. So you can like slide them down as long as you need to. You can put a support in the back like a garden stick that will give a whole extra support. But if you notice, for example, the one back here, this has an extension right there. And you see I have a garden stick in the back, and the only thing that I have it attached with is the straps and the net itself. The other reason for that is that the longer the moss ball is, the more nutritious water you're gonna need. That can get expensive, and you know that.
Let me be more succinct. The more media in the moss ball, the more fertilized water to rehydrate. Meaning, in my conditions, the water will dry or evaporate on the top, leaving fertilized or saturated moss that the plant doesn't have access to just yet. I keep my moss balls short and extend them gradually to avoid slow saturation and fertilizer buildup that can burn the plant once it reaches to higher sections.
A couple of inches above the last node, because I can always add some more moss as the plant grows easily. Like if you see right here, you see that this is loose back here, because that way I can just get to the front and add more moss as this grows. Let me show you this plant, for example, because this is a particular uh, good example of it as well. Look at this. The aerial roots are growing into the moss ball, not down, but they're there. And I'm just a couple of inches away. The node is down here. So as long as I keep that with a little spray that I do every day, those roots are not going to dry up. And these are anchoring roots, so it's not a big deal. Besides, up here in this whole area where the moss actually is, those roots are continuing to have moisture. Now, the reason that I have not attached it back here is because when I need to add more moss, I can just easily pull this and add it perfectly. The other reason is this. Because of me not doing every watering with fertilizer, I do a lot of that watering on the daily basis by just moistening the moss ball. My other approach to feed the plant is with slow release fertilizer into the moss ball. So we're going to move to that. These plants are going to be easy because they don't have aerial roots that we need to attach into the moss ball. So it'll be an easy way for me to show you how to do this. We're going to have about this much, which is about 4 inches of depth that we're going to leave available to put the chunky mix here. And then the moss ball will actually begin from here there. So I will grab some of my netting. This is also in that material video. And I'm going to cut it to the size. So if I have from here to here, I'm actually going to leave it just a bit shorter, right? And it's there. This one is like a little wider than I need because it's going to completely wrap around. You can see like it will like even like overlap, but you can make it as short as this, as long as you have long enough cable ties to attach in the back. So you can make the moss ball as thick as you want. It doesn't have to be this shallow. It can be that thick. It can be like as thick as you want it to be. This is just the back support of it. I like to keep them flat because it's easier to water them. Like I mentioned, the amount of sphagnum moss it makes it more manageable if it's less for me because of daily waterings. If I would water them like once a week, more moss, sphagnum moss will make more sense. So I have mentioned this before. I don't know if it came out on like previous videos because I have a couple of videos that I ran out of audio. All these things come into place for every single plant is different because every single plant for me is not in the same conditions as the next plant. There I have them outside. If you have them inside in a cabinet with grow lights and consistent humidity and airflow, is different. You can do the same formula for every single plant. In this area, I have one microclimate because I have the gazebo has the roof is slanted, so I have some morning light coming in. So the amount of light there is natural and is specific for the area. Under here, you cannot see it, but I have sail shades because otherwise these plants will burn. Even though that the climate doesn't get that hot, the UV gets super high. Those are the things that you have to put in together as a formula of what we're going to do for the plant to thrive, because one formula doesn't fit everything. So if I'm watering this every single day, I will put like a very shallow pot like this and the chunkier mix that I can possibly get. If I put them over there away from the wall, like that, the plants are not getting water every day, then I will add more moisture retention into the soil mix, because that'll make my life easier and it makes the plant thrive. With that in mind, let's move to the next step. So having the bowl flat like this, I'm just gonna add just like that a few balls of slow release fertilizer. And also, if you're interested, I just added a short video to the Medium playlist about the sphagnum moss, because I just received a pack, a very compacted pack of 2 pounds and change, and I actually did a time lapse of how that becomes more, and you can take a look at it in there. So I apply the moss, and now the moss, I applied the moss. Now the moss is being saturated with nutritious water, so it's already like good to go. And I don't like for it to be like very compacted, because then the roots don't have room to get in. So with the moss in place, I just add the net, or the netting, or the chicken wire, however you want to call it. And there it is. So now continue with the moss ball in this position. Then I can feel how much amount of moss is there just by the give as when I tuck them in, and I can tell that if it needs a little more. So it has to give like just like a little give, and like not let your fingers go all the way in. That's the way that I determine the tension will determine the amount of moss that is there. Right there, perfect. Now with this still in that position, you see this has a lot of drainage, and the anchor that I'm going to use has also drainage. Here's another advantage of this. See how I missed the mark right there because it's a little too long? You can easily bring it down to size. And that's perfect, because like the moss, I don't want the moss to be touching like any lower than it needs to, because that can create root rot. So now with this, I will add some soil, and remember that my soil mix right here, this is specifically for moss balls. I will add a little bit in the back, but I will still keep a little bit of an incline on the moss ball, because when I water it, I want that water to naturally drip down into it. If I leave it too straight and this becomes hydrophobic, then it just runs above the moss ball and it doesn't get rehydrated. So with that in place, I just have enough soil to cover the back of the pot itself. I make sure that I have a little base in the bottom of the pot. And now I add the smaller materials. What I do add to it is, and I do this with any of my plants that I put in the Aroid mix or the moss ball mix, because of the particle size. I will not have anything that is fine granule into this mix. I will add it as I'm repotting. So with a little base that covers the bottom of the pot, I'm gonna add a pinch of each at the beginning. This is diatomaceous earth, or DE, a pinch of mycorrhizae, a pinch of earthworm castings, and a pinch of slow release fertilizer. If this will go inside, I will add systemic insecticide, but this is going to be outside, so that's a no. Although if I will bring these plants inside later on in the year for the winter, then I can add a little bit of systemic to the top of the soil mix with also some mosquito bits. After that, I'm gonna get one of the plants. And slowly adjust the root system to the new pot, to the new container. And if you look at there, it's at the right level. So this, as soon as this is like well covered with the mix, it's gonna be well there. Because remember, these are aroids, so the root system will be on the ground for the most part, but most of the root system is gonna get developed later on, like this one right here. This one, once it callus and everything, is gonna go into the mix because it's gonna look for anchoring. Now, last thing, but like not least, most definitely because it's the most important, once you have to do a repot like this where there's a lot of breakage due to whatever reason, I add my mix of our ground cinnamon, a pot of sulfur powder, and 1 pot of rooting hormone. This will add to callus any breakage, and it'll give you a little guarantee or an extra warranty against root rot. After that, I'll just add a little more mix. And before I get to the top, I would say like 90% of the container. Then I'll add another pinch of DE, another pinch of mycorrhizae to inoculate the mix, another pinch of earthworm castings for a fast nutrient, and another little pinch of extended release fertilizer. Once that's done, I'll just finish filling the pot. I will fill it all the way to the top, because this being so chunky in the next upcoming waterings, and that can take maybe like a whole month for this mix to fully get well in between the root system. Now, if you wanna, this is something that can help, but when the mix is as chunky as this and like as fluffy as this, it's hard for it to be effective. So for me, I do a little bit of that, but like I just try with my fingers too. And the other thing is that if you do a lot of that, all those fine things that we just added specifically at the time of repot, they will like sift towards the bottom. So with that being done, all we need now is to secure the plant in place. In this case, one strap of Velcro will do. And that is Billietiae number 1. So let me do the second one, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna anchor them so they don't flop over. I want to make sure that the back, even though that is still on an incline, is well covered. Because remember, like if you saw one of the longer roots, I wrap it around the back of the moss ball. All right, so that's one. Let me do the second. So the big game changer for me have been these spots, because they have drainage. You can see where they're from. I want to get free advertisement. The conical shape here, the pyramid shape, it gives it a lot of stability. But these are great for these plants that are more top heavy. With both of them in place, let's give them a good water. So there they are. I put another little strap on this one on the top because it's getting a little side heavy. So to keep it balanced, just put another strap in there for support. Depends on how it behaves. I can put like a little twine to this one to stick more to the center. But that is all for this video. Stay tuned for the next few episodes where I'm going to do fourth time a gloriosum on a muscle. I want him or her to climb. I don't have the room for it to be crawling. And a mayoi. So those are the upcoming chapters. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please subscribe. It means the world to me. So I need subscribers desperately. Drop a like, comment, and share. Let me know what you think, your thoughts, your critics. They're all appreciated. And I will talk to you soon.